Oh, in Oakland. Hey, Joe, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What are you doing?
How you doing?
Good, man.
Okay. I want to talk about, you said earlier, what's the turning point in the season for the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, I want to know why they're the 10 seed, even if, we all think they're better than that.
Because you had more people that was contributing this year, a lot of young pups like you were talking about. Last year you had the Weissmans and the Pools and these guys with all these egos that knew they had good contracts coming up that didn't want to box out. This year you had, I forget what game it was, like the third or fourth game, Posminski was taking Mike Connolly. He was taking him to the laundromat, and you had on the second unit you had Dario Saric, Posminski, Moody, and Kuminga along with Chris Paul.
Right.
And Chris Paul would huddle the team up and tell them, it looked like to me he was telling them that you guys are going to get playing time this year because it seems like you're on the same page. To me, that's the reason why the team is better this year, because you got a lot of players that want to play defense this year. Every time Golden State won a championship, you had a defensive ball club.
First of all, a couple things, Joe. Like you're talking about why they're better this year versus last year. I'm kind of talking about why are they better now versus earlier this year. In other words, when I say why are they the 10 seed, like they're going to end up with a better record this year than they had last year. Last year, they're the 6. This year, the 10. In other words, when you look at this Warrior team, if we can all agree, and most of us can, that as we sit here today, this is one of the top 5 teams, 6 teams in the West. I think most agree with that right now. But why are they the 10 seed? What was it that held them back this year is maybe a better way to ask it.
Defense. Early on, they wasn't playing great defense. But you see, the switch came on about 5 games ago when you saw Draymond block that shot and everybody was on the same page against Dallas. You saw that. Okay, but you didn't have that type of switch come on earlier this season. Draymond was not Draymond. Clay was not Clay. But you had a bunch of pups, like you said, that wanted to contribute. And all they had to do was learn. So now you got Moody stealing balls. You got Posminski taking charges as you hit. It's just a collective. You don't have Saric anymore, but other than that, those young players that Chris Paul huddled up. Now, the West, of course, they're winning games because they have a lot of offense. But as we go into the playoffs, who's playing defense? The West does not play great defense. Denver does not play great. If they didn't have Caldwell Pope, I don't see what kind of defense they play at all anyway.
Minnesota's the top-rated defensive team in the league. Yeah. But Joe, before you go, I have one other question. Who's your favorite current Warriors rookie?
Current rookie this year?
Yeah, your favorite one.
Posminski.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Joe.
Great answer, Joe.
Posminski.
It's the things that you do, that are somewhat behind the scenes, but whether it's teeing up Jose, hey, Jose, and then teeing him up for that's going to be a no for me, dog, or teeing up that caller to give us one more Posminski or
Posminski.
I didn't even need it, but I appreciate
it. I know, he gave you about 4 of them. Let's just make sure we get a nice, clean smile on the way out the door.
Posminski.
Add it to the list.
It had been a minute. We'd been in a little bit of a lull.
It's been a lull, yeah.
And I don't know if it's a rut or if everybody just started to finally learn his name. But I'm really happy that story wasn't over yet. I needed a new Poughkeepsie Kid.
Yeah.
Or
Poughkeepsie Kid.
Yeah, I needed a new
Pajowski.
Pozemski.
Yeah.
Posminski.
Podsminski.
I love it because he's heavy on the pods, which is right. Pods. And then the Minsky.
Oh,
Posminski.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
My luck, he was going to be like, well, Trace Jackson Davis.
I was waiting for it.
I would have said, then who's your second favorite rookie? Oh,
you teed him up. That was beautiful.
Posminski.
Yeah, Minnesota number one in the association in points allowed, 106.2. Denver is actually 6th.
Boston's 2. Yeah, so I mean, like
New York is 2, and this is just overall points.
Overall points. I'm talking about defensive rating.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, if I do NBA
advanced stats, D rating, Minnesota 1, Orlando 2.
Is it now Orlando 2?
According to Basketball Reference, which I love how defensive rating and offensive rating are different based on which source you go to.
I'm at NBA.com, has Boston 2 narrowly over Orlando 3.
Right, okay.
Miami 4, New Orleans has moved into the 5 hole.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City had been a top 5 team all year. They're fallen to 6. I've got them at 6.
What's their number?
111.9.
Interesting.
Is their defensive rating.
Because they, according to Basketball Reference, 115.4. So I wonder how they computed
rating or
115.4 defensive rating.
Their rating.
Correct.
Huh.
I wonder what the difference is between, you're at NBA.com.
NBA.com.
This is Basketball Reference. So.
/stats /teams /defense. And then I'm at defensive rating. Warriors right now, for those interested, 16th.
21st.
16th.
118.7.
114.6.
Okay.
Tied with the Los Angeles Clippers and right behind the adorable Kings.
I'm going to do some homework today, not during the show, but after, to figure out what the difference is in the computation of. It's a computation sensation is what it is.
Thank you.
The difference between the NBA.com and Basketball Reference, because clearly they're computing it in different ways.
Completely different ways. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to believe just, whichever website I'm on.
Of course.
And so I'm going to go with that. But I don't know what that means from nothing. So let's go to Ryan in Fremont. Hi, Ryan. Welcome to the show. What are you doing?
Hey, guys. I was driving home from work. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling.
I was just going to say, for this year, being in the 10 seed, I think we could finish the year with a better record than last year, but all the other teams got better. So, it doesn't matter if we finish with the same record. We are where we are because other teams won more games than we won. We lost a ton of games by like 1 or 2 points. I think we have the record out of any team who lost the most games by a single digit, maybe even by just 1 point. And a lot of that has to do with missing a specific guy for many games who's really good at defense. And we all know, we probably could have won a lot of those games if Draymond was available, but he wasn't. So that we are where we are, and I think we could make a run here if, we have some magic in the play-in, but we're just kind of in control of where we're at. We got to hopefully win out and possibly steal the 8th seed, win one game. We'll see what happens.
Ryan, thanks. There's no doubt about the fact that you have a point, and you can look at this a number of different ways, but the 10 seed in the East is 36-43. The Atlanta Hawks are 7 games under 500 and are 5 games clear of the next team in the 10 seed. The Bulls are the 9 seed. They are 5 games under 500. The Warriors are 44-35, and I would argue are very likely going to either end this season with 46 or 47 wins.
Right.
And if they end with 46, they're probably going to still be the 10 seed. Like 47 wins or 46 wins, and you're the 9 or the 10. In other words, the old NBA, you wouldn't have even made it. That's crazy. That's a really good record. So, To leave that out of the conversation, I think is disingenuous. That's definitely part of it. Part of it is that the West this year has 10 really good basketball teams. They're all really good.
They're all good. I don't know if they're really good.
They're not all
Nobody's going to win 60. They're all good.
But that speaks to how good all of them are. No one's going to win 60 because they're all against each other all the time.
Right, but there's no one team that's really good. Like Boston in the East,
I think
they're going to win 65. They're really good.
You don't think Denver's really good? I think
they're the defending champs.
Yeah, I think they're really good.
They're good. They're not going to be the number 1 seed.
They might. They're tied for it right now.
They might wind up as the 3 seed.
They could.
The point is, I think your point is that there's a lot of parity. If you go from 1 to 10 in the West, you're looking at about a 10 or 11 game differential between 10 teams. There are 10 teams who are mostly comparable to one another. The big difference is, for me, looking at the Warriors, if you take out the games that they've played against the top 7 teams, Minnesota, Denver, OKC, Clippers, Dallas, New Orleans, and Phoenix. If you take those 25 games away, they're 39-15. 39-15 against everybody else. And that includes the Kings, the Lakers, everybody in the East, 1 through 15, and the dregs of the West.
I'm not mad at that yet. Again, we've had this conversation.
I'm not mad at it at all.
No, but I mean, that's the whole
it's
Dallas.
Just a fact.
That's the Dallas Cowboys dynamic. It's a fact, but it doesn't necessarily tell the entire story of right now. Like, in other words, when you give that winning percentage, what's the winning percentage against the top teams?
5-20.
Okay, so their winning percentage is 20%.
Right.
Is it your belief that the way they are and who they are right now, that when they play one of those top teams, they've only got a 20% chance to win the game?
Probably a 20% chance to win the series, which would mean
That's different.
Well, they're not going to play those teams in a one-off. Unless they go up against the 7 seed, which would be Phoenix. They're gonna play a best of 7.
Right, but I mean, I think the only way you can win a series is if you make it a series.
Right,
and I don't think that the feeling right now is that the Warriors are going to get swept or just manhandled or overwhelmed in a series. I think that that's going to be the beauty of these playoffs. I think every series, and this is never the case in the NBA, every series is going to be hard. Minnesota and Oklahoma City are going to come right out of the gate and have a hard series that they have to win, and they might not win it right away. That's not normal for the ones and the twos. The ones and the twos can usually kind of sleepwalk through round one. Not this year.
Right.
And so I look at the Warriors, the Lakers, Kings and Suns. All of these teams are going to have the ability to go up against the top teams and dude, grab game one. And after 4 games, it's 2-2. These could be long series. And then you get into the whole, how are you against good teams? My contention is if you were playing all of those games with this version of the Warriors, the record would be better. I don't know if it'd be great. It'd be better. They're better than that now.
You would expect that, but even to your point about how well they've been playing, and you're not wrong, if you look at their run of games where they've been playing so much better, win over Charlotte, win over San Antonio, they did beat Dallas, you beat Houston, you lost to Dallas, you beat Utah. A lot of these wins that they've had over the course of this great run have been against Memphis and San Antonio. It's been a lot of games that they've won against teams that aren't necessarily the best in the association. And you can go as far back as you want to where they were 18-22 at one point, and they've gone on to go 26-13 since then. They've had some good wins. They've had some bad losses. I mean, even just and recently. They've had a lot of wins against teams that aren't very good. In those 26 wins, since they were 3 or 4 games below 500, a lot of those wins are against teams that are below them.
Yes, but I mean, look, I guess this would be my point. And I know before everyone goes, well, but this guy was out in that game, and that guy, Luka didn't play, and AD didn't play. Since the start of March, they have beaten the Milwaukee Bucks. They have beaten the Lakers twice. They have beaten the Orlando Magic. They have beaten the Miami Heat. They have beaten the Dallas Mavericks. They're not all top of the standings, but everyone I just mentioned, these are playoff teams, and they're all good.
They've also lost to Dallas twice.
Yes, they have.
And so 3 games against Dallas, they're 1-2.
Correct.
In that same stretch.
Ball in the air on the road just last week, could have won.
Sure, but didn't.
Again, right, but that's in the playoffs, right now, that's all that you take that. You take that. The Warriors are right now they're the 10 seed. They might end up the 9. Who knows? Maybe they end up the 8. But, I mean, that's kind of the way I look at their chances now. It's a ball in the air 3-pointer with a hand in your face. That's a 35% proposition. But that's their chances. That's their chances to win one of these series. If they play Minnesota in a week and a half.
I think it's less than 35%.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. You take that. You take that. Some of these losses, I look at them and I think to myself, even the one
Chicago at home.
Yes, they've had bad losses, no doubt. But, at Minnesota, March 24th, a loss is a loss. But that game was tight the whole way.
Yeah.
That's just how I think these games are going to look. I'm with you. Probably not going to win a playoff series. I'm with you. But like,
well, I hope they do.
Right,
but
I'm looking
at the math of it.
They're going to be a real tough out because everybody in the West is going to be a really tough out.
I would not guess that any of the first round Western Conference playoffs is a sweep. I would say there are 0 sweeps in those 4 first round series, and I would say that only one of them ends up in 5. You're probably looking at 3 or more that go 6.
There might be none that go 5. I'd actually bet on that.
That no series is in fewer games than 6.
Correct.
Yeah,
I'd bet on that.
I'll circle back to that when we get to the playoffs here in 9 days or so, because that would be unheard of for any playoff.
Correct.
But this is the kind of year where you could see that with so much parity and such a small difference between 1 and 8.
Denver is the one that you look at and you go, gosh, could you knock someone out in 5? They do have a matchup edge on certain teams.
And an altitude edge.
They have that. They're the best team in the West, I firmly believe. And they've got the altitude and the home court, and they're going against a play-in team that's going to have to do work next week. Then again, sometimes we watch this in all sports. Sometimes, and I guarantee you, if the Warriors can find their way out of this play-in tournament, it is something that we will talk about at the end of next week, which is to say, when teams take a big layoff, sometimes that team that's been playing versus a team that hasn't been playing, you can steal game 1 that way because the other team is out of sync. This was a huge talking point in baseball last year. Everybody was whining and complaining. And the violin, oh, God, we just sit here and wait because we're good. And then we were out of sync and we didn't win. I mean, this has been the Dodgers and all of these teams. And who knows? Maybe that's something that will help the Warriors or the Lakers or the Kings or the Suns or whoever ends up coming out of this thing. You know, you're going against, especially if you get Minnesota or Oklahoma City, you're going against a team that's going to have pressure on them as a top seed for the first time in their lives. And you, in theory, will be going up against a team that's in sync.
Yes, but at the same time, you're an older team, and assuming that you need to win Wednesday and Friday and then turn around and play again on Sunday, you might be a little bit more fatigued than you'd rather be. And I think about the championship year of 2 years ago when you were able to rest staff for the last month of the year, and you had guys coming in much fresher than they will be, especially if you're going to end up chasing the 8. And they got Portland tomorrow, and then you turn around Friday and Sunday, New Orleans and Utah at home. So you've got 3 games in 4 nights in 2 different cities, and you might need all of them to get the 8. And then you turn around after Sunday, and you'd have to play, if you're the 9 or the 10, you'd have to play Wednesday and then Friday. And if you win both, then you play Sunday, either in Denver or Minnesota or OKC. It's going to be tough for an older team to be fresh and be ready in that game 1.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole rest versus rust thing. Yeah, Friday night is going to be the difficult one. Honestly, the way I feel the way this Warrior team is playing, I would be very, very surprised if they did not win tomorrow night. I will be locked down, shocked if they don't win Sunday.
Right.
Friday night's the one. Friday night's the one. You are not only on a back-to-back, you're on a plane trip back-to-back. You're up against a good, solid team that is going to need the game. And the fact that it's at home is not very comforting. Not as comforting as it usually is. New Orleans has not been playing great. They have not been playing great, but they're doing okay. They have won a couple in a row, and they have moved out of the play-in tournament, but it is razor thin.
Right. And
they're going to need that game. And New Orleans has it's been a while, but they've had your number when they've played you earlier this year. I think they've, remember, they came to Chase Center on January 10th and won by a tidy 36 points.
Yeah.
Just eked that one out. And then I think they played right out of the gate. Yeah, in New Orleans was the 3rd game of the year. Warriors blew them out. So that's been a weird matchup this year. Been a long time since the two have played. That's the one I'm circling. That's the difficult one. If the Warriors get that one, in my mind, they're at least the 9.
Yeah, it'd be great if they were the 9. That'd be a home gate for Joe Lacob and a home game for all of us to go out and watch in a one and done scenario. And you mentioned that January 10th game. No Draymond Green in that one when the Warriors got blown out by the Pels.
There wasn't much of anything in that game. That